I told you how the war began on February 28, 2026. But that is only the surface of the story. The deeper truth is that this war has been burning for 47 years, since 1979, since before many of the people fighting it were even born. To understand it fully, we need to go back, not to blame anyone, not to take sides, but because a wise senior knows that every fire has a source, and you cannot understand a fire by only looking at the flames. In 1979, the people of Iran rose up and overthrew their ruler, the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, who had been supported by the United States for decades. In his place came Ayatollah Khomeini and the Islamic Revolution. Iran declared itself an Islamic Republic, and almost immediately, the relationship between Iran and the United States collapsed. In November 1979, a group of Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took 52 American diplomats hostage. They were held for 444 days. This single event created a wound in the American national psyche that never fully healed. And it created a wound in Iran too, because the hostage crisis led to decades of isolation, sanctions, and confrontation that made the ordinary Iranian people poorer and more desperate year by year. Iran's nuclear program did not begin with the Islamic Republic. It actually began with American support. In the 1960s and 1970s, the United States gifted Iran a nuclear research reactor and trained Iranian scientists in nuclear technology as part of a Cold War alliance. After the 1979 revolution, that cooperation ended, but Iran continued developing nuclear expertise. By 2002, the world learned that Iran had secret nuclear facilities at Natanz and Iraq that had never been declared to international inspectors. From that moment, the nuclear question dominated every conversation between Iran and the world. Was Iran building a bomb? Iran said no, that its program was for peaceful energy generation. The United States and Israel said yes, or, at the very least, that Iran was building the capability to make a bomb very quickly if it chose to. In 2015, after years of negotiations, a historic agreement was reached. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. Iran agreed to strict limits on its nuclear program. International inspectors would verify compliance. In return, economic sanctions would be lifted, and Iran could trade with the world again. For 2 years, it worked. Iran complied. Inspectors verified. The sanctions began lifting. Ordinary Iranians began to hope that their lives might improve. Then, in 2018, President Trump withdrew the United States from the agreement unilaterally. He reimposed maximum pressure sanctions, the harshest economic restrictions in history. Iran's currency collapsed. Inflation soared. Ordinary people who had hoped for a better life saw those hopes destroyed. Iran responded by gradually expanding its nuclear activities, enriching uranium to higher and higher levels. By early 2026, it was assessed to be within weeks of having enough material for a nuclear weapon. And so here we are. 47 years of mutual distrust, sanctions, proxy wars, failed negotiations, and broken promises, culminating in the strikes of February 28, 2026. In everything I have told you about this war, the missiles, the oil prices, the diplomatic negotiations, there is something we must never forget. Inside Iran, there are 90 million human beings, ordinary people, people with families, dreams, and lives, people who did not choose their government and who have paid the price for it every single day. Let me tell you what life under the Iranian government has looked like for ordinary Iranians. In 2009, millions of Iranians took to the streets after a disputed election. They called it the Green Movement. Security forces beat them, arrested them, and in some cases, killed them. The protests were crushed, but the desire for freedom was not. In 2022, a young woman named Mahsa Amini was arrested by Iran's morality police, for allegedly wearing her hijab incorrectly. She died in custody. Her death ignited the largest protest movement in Iran's history, the Women, Life, Freedom movement. Young women cut their hair in public. They burned their headscarves. They chanted in the streets of every major city. The government's response was brutal. Security forces killed hundreds of protesters. Thousands were arrested. Many were sentenced to death. In January 2026, just weeks before the war began, protests erupted again across all 31 of Iran's provinces. This time, driven by a collapsing economy. Inflation had destroyed people's savings. Basic goods had become unaffordable. The currency was worthless. Human rights groups documented that security forces killed thousands of demonstrators in the crackdown that followed.